Direct from our newsroom in Washington, in color, this is the CBS Evening News with Roger Mudd and Marvin Kalb in Washington, Bruce Morton at Fort Benning, Georgia, Terry Drinkwater at Fort Carson, Colorado, Jim Kilpatrick in Los Angeles, Morley Safer in Knock, County Mayo, Ireland, and a sports report with Haywood Hale Brune in Lexington, Kentucky.
Good evening. A cluster of islands off the coast of East Pakistan was struck by a hurricane and tidal waves yesterday, and reports tonight of the resulting disaster are almost unbelievable. Officials now estimate that as many as 100,000 persons may have been killed. The number of recovered bodies alone is well over 11,000, and the scene described by observers is one of total devastation. A pilot who flew over the area said he saw no sign of life on some islands known to be populated, and that other smaller islands had simply disappeared. Some bodies were found caught in tree branches, indicating the savage force of the storm, and thousands of dead cattle floated in the floodwater. The recovered bodies are being buried in mass graves. More arrests were reportedly made in Syria today as the military leaders of yesterday's coup tried to strengthen their control. Their troops guarded key buildings in the capital, Damascus, but the city was reported generally quiet. Syria's defense minister, General Hafez al-Assad, seized control in yesterday's coup, arresting President Nuruddin al-Atassi and other key officials. The events did not surprise Washington, as Marvin Kalb reports.
U.S. officials have been expecting a coup for some time. There has been a power struggle in Syria since September, the time of the Jordanian Civil War, when Syrian tanks and troops entered Jordan and then, under big power pressure, withdrew, humiliated and bloodied. Officials have felt some Syrian heads had to roll for this misadventure. That General Assad appears to have emerged on top at this moment is seen here as a relatively positive development, more in the direction of moderation than extremism. Assad is regarded here as something of a moderate, less likely than his predecessors to push the Palestinian cause into a confrontation with Israel. Officials feel he might seek a reconciliation with Egypt, but that too does not distress them, since they feel Egypt is now ready for peace talks with Israel. Assad is seen as a realistic man who will try to maintain his military ties with Russia, remain basically anti-American, but steer Syria towards a more rational and therefore less dangerous policy in the Middle East. Marvin Kalb, CBS News, Washington.
West Germany and Poland reached agreement today on a treaty establishing normal diplomatic relations for the first time. Terms of the treaty were not announced, but its main point is reported to be West German acceptance of Poland's post-war border along the line formed by the Oder and Neisse rivers.
This winter, get more than just antifreeze. Get Prestone with the protection plan that's ironclad. Prestone protects against freeze-ups, protects against corrosion, protects against most minor leaks. Prestone protects, or write Union Carbide for your money back. This winter, get more than just antifreeze. Get Prestone with the ironclad protection plan.
This Thanksgiving, it almost pays to visit the folks and hang around, because Hertz has extended its 747 rate for the 10 days surrounding Thanksgiving. During that time, we'll rent you a Ford for $7.47 a day plus mileage and gas for any 2 consecutive days or more. So take a Hertz car home to Mother. She won't have to throw out a thing.
Here, you can eat this in the car.
Rate not available at all locations.
In South Vietnam, the U.S. command says enemy forces have attacked troops of the 101st Airborne Division near Hue, killing 4 Americans and wounding 25. The communist troops ambushed one unit and broke through the night defenses of another. The attacks were the heaviest in a series of incidents that has broken a lull in the Vietnam fighting and in 2 days has killed 18 Americans and wounded 74. An unusual Saturday session was held today in an effort to complete the jury selection in the My Lai murder trial of First Lieutenant William Calley. Bruce Morton reports from Fort Benning, Georgia.
The lawyers have questioned 16 prospective jurors. Only 4 survived to become members of the court. The legal minimum is a 5-man court. In practice, at least 6 are needed to prevent a mistrial if a juror falls ill. The rejections lack a pattern. Several, successfully challenged by the government, said they thought the Army should never have charged Calley at all. Others said that if he were guilty, they would feel bound to demand the death penalty. Today's only approved juror, Captain Ronald Salem, who'd served in Vietnam. His first reaction to My Lai? It seems odd that a man can be accused of murdering over 100 people. Callie would have to be berserk. Others in the unit would stop him. Salem said that was not a firm opinion, that he would judge on the evidence, and a prosecution challenge was denied. Callie's civilian attorney, George Latimer, indicated he'd like more line infantry officers on the panel and talked about the problems of jury picking.
I don't think it's unusual to have this many men have fixed opinions on a case, either for or against. So when I have that, why you have a difficult time in selecting a jury.
Nobody here disagrees with Latimer that it's proving hard to find jurors who don't already have fixed opinions about this case. The military judge, Colonel Reed Kennedy, had hoped to begin hearing testimony on Monday, but it will take all of Monday and possibly longer before a jury is finally chosen. Bruce Morton, CBS News, Fort Benning, Georgia.
Earlier this week, Admiral Elmo Zumwalt, the Chief of Naval Operations, shocked the old-timers with his campaign against Mickey Mouse regulations and grubby jobs like KP and latrine duty. Trying to reverse the drop in Navy enlistments, Zumwalt has approved hard rock music, beer, beards, and booze. But the Army has already done much the same at some installations like Fort Carson, Colorado. Terry Drinkwater reports.
Retreat at Fort Carson, Colorado. Just enough men to bring down the flag. There is no big traditional formation of all the troops. The 21,000 men on active duty don't stand reveille formation in the morning here either. For the Army, those are revolutionary changes, but they are only a small part of what is happening here.
The Department of the Army has a number of fine programs that they're going to implement, which will improve the lot of the soldier. No matter where you get your customer, whether he comes in the volunteer army or he comes because he's drafted, in 1970 you just have to make changes to improve the lot of the soldier that makes sense today, to get rid of our self-inflicted wounds that we've had in our system for hundreds of years.
To ease the boredom in the off-duty hours, go-go dancers are allowed on post in the clubs for enlisted men. Hard liquor is available too. Privates elsewhere have never had it so good. And an even more radical change in official policy is this coffee house, a meeting place right in the center of Fort Carson where those who wish to attack and work against the military system can do so freely.
Hey man, dig. I'm for anybody who want to do their thing. I'm in here. What changes? Volunteers. This is what we're asking. What changes? What changes? Hey, I wish I would catch somebody walking in there volunteer from Army. I know what I do for him. Okay, here's the band.
Dull, crowded barracks with no privacy for individual soldiers were one of the gripes voiced at the coffee house. But here, the higher-ups, the military establishment, listen. The results are downright psychedelic. These living quarters are perhaps the most obvious change at Fort Carson, which by any measure is changing faster than any other Army facility in the world. The non-military looking physical changes at the post, as important as they are to the GIs, really are not as fundamental as the administrative changes. Training has been reorganized and reduced. No more make-work instruction just to keep the troops busy. At Carson, a real effort is being made to put the right man in the right job. Specialist 4, Ed Leake, who sometimes works in civilian clothes, has had education in the environmental sciences. Thus, he wasn't made an infantryman, but an ecologist. One of his ideas, to recycle cardboard containers rather than burning them. By selling them for reuse to an off-post paper mill, he is actually making money for GI recreation funds. Specialist 4, Fernando Gaxiola, is a counselor in the stockade. Why? Because he had some pre-military experience in the field, and 2, he bitterly attacked the commanding general for not running the stockade properly. So the general challenged Gaxiola by giving him this job. There was serious racial trouble here, as elsewhere in the military. The answer at Carson was to put black militants on a racial harmony council. Most of the blacks here were convicted, sentenced, and served time on riot charges as civilians in Detroit and elsewhere. But now, with their responsibilities in this council, they feel the military is keeping the faith with them,
and they are keeping Carson cool at last. At Carson, there is a frankness about drugs, too. Counseling and treatment provided with amnesty from the law when the users come here to the drug education center called Headway House. Nearly 1 soldier in 4 is a regular marijuana smoker, and heroin use is sharply on the rise. The whole evolution at Fort Carson is centered here in an enlisted men's council. Privates meet face-to-face with the general once every 2 weeks. The atmosphere is like a seminar where the students don't like their professor too well. But without all the sergeants and junior officers in the way, the give and take works. 70% of the enlisted men's ideas have been put into effect.
The next one we had to do with ski lessons at reduced rates for soldiers. The answer to that is you get a reduced rate at the Broadmoor ski slope if we can get 20 in a group.
The man responsible for all of it, Carson's commanding general, Bernard Rogers.
I think one of the most important things we've done is to implement a modified training program wherein a commander knows for 17 weeks in advance what he's to do every week. And if he completes it to his satisfaction within 5 days, why work on Saturday and Sunday? For example, 27 out of the 30 battalion-sized units here last Saturday had Saturday off because the commander was satisfied. And none of us have lost sight of the fact that in the end, the only true evaluation is, will that man on the field of battle, when his company commander says, all right, we've got to take that objective, and he and others in the company know that some of them won't come back, will he respond? In the final analysis, it's the reaction of the soldier on the field of battle that determines whether or not what we're doing is right. And that will take some time to evaluate that one.
The result, overall at Carson, re-enlistments are up, and far fewer soldiers are going AWOL. At the Pentagon, General Rogers says they're impressed. Indeed, the general will soon be reassigned to Washington himself in a job where his ideas will undoubtedly be heard. He will be the Army's Pentagon liaison officer to Congress. Terry Drinkwater, CBS News, Fort Carson, Colorado.
You may not believe it, but this rich, savory, tantalizing shrimp jambalaya came out of this Presto pressure cooker in just 15 minutes cooking time. And Italian potted beef, made from an ordinary cut of economy meat, cooked through, yet moist and tender, in just 35 minutes, with the same pressure cooker. Your Presto cooker is a friend to delicate vegetables, too, like broccoli, done in just minutes, with all its garden goodness and nutrients sealed in. No wonder more than 20 million women use the Presto cooker. It's the fastest way to a great cook reputation.
The Presto pressure cooker now comes in 2 delicious colors, avocado or harvest gold, as well as aluminum. Take your pick, but make sure it's Presto.
A 3-million-gallon oil slick is flowing tonight down the Schuylkill River toward Delaware Bay. Federal officials who are trying to break up the slick say it formed last night when heavy rains collapsed the lagoon wall, causing the oil to enter from a reclaiming plant 35 miles north of Philadelphia. And in California today, the problem was not water, but fire. Jim Kilpatrick reports from Los Angeles.
For the second time this year, major forest fires are out of control in Southern California. In the last 24 hours, 7 fires broke out. 3 are still out of control. The largest is 60 miles east of Los Angeles in the mountains near San Bernardino. More than 50,000 acres and 40 homes have burned. Most of the houses were mountain cabins. The fire line stretches 20 miles. At the top elevation, near 7,000 feet, are the resort towns of Running Springs and Arrow Bear. Several communities remain evacuated, some voluntarily and others by orders of fire officials. As usual in California fires, officials are hampered by high winds. At the upper elevation, winds are gusting to 60 miles an hour. Most of the fire is in uninhabited forest area, some of which is accessible only by horseback, but outer reaches are precariously close to other mountain resort communities. If the winds subside, firemen may get control. Jim Kilpatrick, CBS News, Los Angeles.
The 1970 midterm election was over, technically at least, a week and a half ago, but the race for governor of Rhode Island was so close that it didn't end until today, when Republican Herbert D. Simone conceded the re-election of Democrat Frank Leach. Senate Republican leader Hugh Scott today tried to make a party issue of the coming Democratic attempt to override the president's veto of the campaign spending bill. In a letter to his 42 Republican colleagues, Scott said the bill, which would limit radio and TV costs to 7 cents a vote, discriminates against broadcasters. The bill cleared the Senate originally 58-27.
Gonna start the day the right way, the old way, to get up and go away. Gonna have a bowl of lemon. Gonna get a powerful good feeling from Cheerios.
Start your day with Cheerios, protein-rich cereal made from oats. Oats have more protein than wheat, rice, or corn.
So get up and go with Cheerios.
You know, watching your weight is no easy job. Because when you cut out some foods, you may be cutting yourself out of these essential vitamins, too. Personally, I can't afford it.
So I got a partner, Total. It watches my vitamins while I watch my weight. Total has more vitamins than any other cereal, plus iron. Total helps me feel fit. It watches your vitamins while you watch your weight.
Run the Gauntlet today made more than $211,000 for less than 2 minutes' work. Run the Gauntlet is a 2-year-old thoroughbred, and the money was the winner's purse in the Garden State Stakes, this country's richest race ever. As racing purses and betting handles rise and as tracks become more plastic and businesslike, nostalgia drew Haywood Hailbrun back to Kentucky, where there still is some sport in the sport of kings.
This is horse country, a calendar cover landscape which seems light years away from the clangor of commerce, but which obviously doesn't support its extensive, expensive elegance by the sale of hay and pony rides. These gravid mares grazing on grass which looks as if it had been spray painted for the camera carry within them hopes of racing glory. The carefully planned babies which will be untangling their matchstick legs this spring, gambling along the horizon line next spring, and thundering for the wire a year later.
Number 127, probably the most talked about.
Horses are Lexington's leitmotif, and at last year's Keeneland horse sales, $28 million was spent on an assortment of green carriers. The sum is staggering, but when you look at this full brother to majestic Prince, all fire and springs, shining with the arrogant gloss of the conqueror, it makes you wish you hadn't spent that spare $500,000 on a Rembrandt. His price was a record for American racing.
I've been told 55 now, but it was 60, wouldn't give me 65. I've been told 55 now, but it was 60, wouldn't give me 60, anybody give me 60. 500,000. Thank you, sir. Tell you what to do, old partner. I'll take 510. Majestic Prince again. Give a big hand.
Driving through Lexington, one is reminded of the dominant part the horse plays in the town's life, as even liquor stores show a flying field shaking the wine racks with their hoofbeats. Out in the countryside, the trees are turning to colors which complement the coats of those who stand under them, and driveways wind to what appears to be a still-standing set from Gone with the Wind. Mundanely, it is the main building of Claiborne Farms, where A.B. Hancock presides over 700 horses who've been to the races or are going there. Among them, scattered over 6,000 acres, stallions like Buckpasser, Bold Lad, and Bold Ruler, sires whose names are engraved on historic trophies, as well as in the bloodlines of those who will eventually break their records without dimming their names. The hat has the faded crumple the squirearchy loves, but under it is a head which grapples with such titanic figures as a $70,000 lawn mowing bill. Hancock thinks the horse industry fell into Kentucky's green lap by default.
There was a lot of horse country in the United States way back yonder, but Tennessee outlawed racing, Alabama outlawed racing. They were two good centers, and they came here because Kentucky still raced. I don't think it's any better land than the middle basin of Tennessee or some places around Maryland, Virginia, but it has been horse country for so long. We've got a lot of help around here now that understand the game.
When the Keeneland Association isn't listening to the rhythm of adding machines at its auctions, it listens to the beat of hoofs at its racetrack, which, fashionably weathered like Hancock's hat, was built surprisingly as recently as 1936, when the Depression left Lexington without a track for the first time since the 18th century. The stock prospectus, which tried to raise a modest $350,000 to put a course in front of John R. Keene's old barns and house, was a curious document in which the word profit is mentioned with the pained delicacy Victorians used to bring to a discussion of sewers. What has eventuated is a place which has a hard time getting rid of its money and is beloved of all local charities. The romance of Keeneland draws back Kentucky Derby winners like Robert Lehman's Dust Commander, who began his rise with a win in the track's Bluegrass Stakes last spring. He got second prize this time. But at the track which won't cut down trees which block the view, it doesn't matter that much. In its grab for the shadow of the good old days, Keeneland is proud of having no public address system to call the positions of the horses. Race caller Chick Anderson has the leaders discreetly spotted on the Mutuel board. But for the rest, the racing as much as it was when George Washington turned to his Secretary of the Treasury and said, "Hamilton, you've got young eyes. What's happened to that gray filly?" At other tracks, the description of C.V. Whitney's colors has been simplified to light blue. But here it's as it always was, Eton blue after the ancient school. And when Don Brumfield brings those colors arrowing up in the final strides, the sentimental can imagine that C.V.'s father, Harry Payne Whitney, will step out of the little clubhouse to accept congratulations from sporting print figures in Tattersall vests. Cynics say that racing immortality lasts till the next starting bell, but the sturdy evergreens that spell Keeneland remind us that to some, racing is more than just the races. It is a residue of romance, the last cavalry charge. This is Haywood Hale Broon in Lexington, Kentucky.
If you took away all the extra things Hertz gives you, the thousands of offices where you can rent a Ford, the tours, the maps, the survival manuals, the special vacation rates, the Hertz girl, and if you took away our good name, Hertz would be left with the one basic thing every rent-a-car outfit can offer, a car. But even then, we offer more kinds of cars than anyone in the business.
$3.95! $3.95!
I'm Dick Butkus. Plug-in holes is my business. Plug-in holes is Prestone's business, too. Prestone anti-leak antifreeze. It's got a protection plan that's ironclad. Prestone will stop most minor leaks anywhere in your cooling system, or write Union Carbide for your money back. So when it comes to plug-in holes, get Prestone with the ironclad protection plan.
This is the season for Sadie Hawkins Days, which originated in the comic strip Little Abner. But in Ireland's County Mayo, the mating game is more than just a funny paper affair. Even the church is now involved in an effort to save a way of life that's dying. Morley Safer reports from the village of Knock, County Mayo.
Sunday morning in the west of Ireland. The special thing about Sunday is that for once everyone is doing the same thing. Age, sex, occupation, rich and poor. It makes no difference. You receive the same Holy Communion, listen to the same sermon. Sunday is a day to put loneliness aside. The whole community seeks, if not the solace of God, then at least a few hours of company.
The west of Ireland is the kind of place from which you emigrate, to such Elysian fields as Liverpool or Cleveland or Brisbane. But thousands stay behind, the less adventurous, the dutiful who look after aging parents and try to make a go of the tired land. The men put off marriage until they can afford it, and the women wait and grow old or they go away, and the church worries. The West has become a backward land of middle-aged bachelors.
Brides are at a premium, and young brides, which most of these men in their 40s want, are even more scarce. Each year, thousands emigrate abroad or to Dublin. They leave behind small farms that were unprofitable and are now unsellable. Some of these farmers earn less than $1,500 a year. Not a good prospect for a girl who can go to Dublin and earn twice that as a secretary. The church in Ireland is slow to reform itself. But at last it is trying to save the West. In the village of Knock in County Mayo, the church runs what it calls an introduction bureau. In the files of Father Michael Keane are the hopes of thousands of lonely people.
Age 24. What is...
Age 27.
27. The age is all right. What height you say?
5'8".
Yeah, she's 5'7". That's all right. Interests?
Pictures, shooting, music, dancing.
Music, walking, sightseeing, reading. We say we've paired off this couple. We will take an abstract out of this, plus the girl's photograph, and we send to the man and ask him, would he be interested? We do not disclose the name or address of the girl. She writes direct to him, and then we step out of the picture for the moment.
What are they looking for in a mate?
I don't know that they would go too much for glamour or things like that. I think this is what they want. They would make a good mother and a good wife. And I would say a lot of the men, too, would wish for heirs and family. I think this is a very strong thing in the men end of it. I think that that's why you get the man of that age looking for the younger girl.
The church in County Mayo has had some success in getting people to stay. The Knock Introduction Bureau has had 3,000 clients in 3 years, and so far 150 weddings have resulted. And it's encouraged the middle-aged to get out and mix, to end the segregation that Father Keane talks about. And here is where the farmer finds a wife, or tries to. Here, too, is the most graphic evidence of the problem. They come to the dance and drink endless pints of black Guinness and hope to end the loneliness. And the women. Perhaps a character from the Irish novelist Brian Moore says it best. You're up for auction, a country auction, where the auctioneer stands up and says, "What am I bid?" He starts at a high price, no offers. Then second best, no offers. Third, no offers. And somebody comes along, laughable, and you take him, if you can get him, because it's either that or back on the shelf for you. Back to your furnished room and your prayers and your hopes. Morley Safer, CBS News, at Knock in County Mayo.
That's the news this Saturday night. Roger Mudd, CBS News, Washington.